Welcome to the Janice Dean Podcast. I hope you've been enjoying these conversations as much as I have. Today, we're dealing with a tough topic, but one that is an important one. My good friend, Gianno Caldwell, lost his baby brother, Christian, in a shooting in Chicago. A devastating family story that has propelled him into advocacy, into not only finding the killer, but also using his platform to address violence and a lax crime policy in Chicago. Many states around the U.S. are dealing with the same thing. Turning tragedy into advocacy is something I've had experience with over the last few years, and I know how hard but important this mission is. For Gianno, his family, and the families of others who have gone through the same experience, please welcome my friend, Gianno Caldwell. Tell me when you got the news.
June 24th. Friday morning, I get a panic call from my sister Mia, who just screams in the phone and
it's okay. I understand, buddy. Take all the time you need. I get it.
No, I just didn't. You think you get to that point.
I know.
Where you can have these conversations and the tears aren't going to flow because you cried so much.
Yes.
And I thought I was there, and I continue to think that I'm there, and I prove myself wrong again. June 24th, my sister Mia calls me, screaming into the phone saying, Christian is gone. I said, what do you mean gone? What are you talking about? And she says, he's dead. And I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she was saying that he was killed that morning, and I began to really kind of question her as to where she's getting this information. Have you talked to police? Have you talked to a hospital? How do you know that it's true? And she began to tell me the story as she knew it, which turned out to be the story, which was Friday morning, 114th Street, South Vincennes in Chicago. He's outside. There's other people outside because they were outside of some kind of restaurant or whatever it is. And black SUV pulls up, 3 or 4 African-American men with dreads get out, begin firing. They hit multiple people. And my brother was the only one that didn't make it. Oh. He was the only one. The person who was the intended target, he survived, critical condition, multiple surgeries, even I think maybe a week or two later, still surgeries. But he didn't have that opportunity, my little brother, to even be in that position. So it was really, really, really hard for me to grasp what was going on. I just needed to be sure. And no one was sure at that time when I first spoke with her. But my brother went in to the hospital about an hour after I spoke to my sister, and he confirmed it. Mm. So that started a spiral.
Yeah.
Emotionally, certainly just in my thinking, and I'm a very pensive person. And I began to really think, like, okay, how could I have prevented this? Mm. And in some ways, I began to blame myself a little bit.
Why? You can't.
I'm going to tell you why. 2 summers ago, he called me and he said to me, Christian, that I need to get out of Chicago. I said, why? What's going on? And he was kind of in a panic. And I said, why? What's going on? And he said, I need to get out. He said that everyone around him was being murdered. And I thought, when he said, I need to get out, I'm like, someone after you? No one's after me, but I need to get out because all of my friends are dying. Mm. And I said, okay, I can fly you out to LA, which is where I am, or I can fly you to my mom's house in Sacramento. Talk to my mom. She said, okay. Fly him out the next day because there was no flights remaining going out, anything direct. And he was there for 2 months, 2 or 3 months. And my grandmother, who's elderly, she has a nurse. She was calling him, telling him she needed help, and he knew that she needed help. He wasn't really feeling being in the house with my mom. That's a very complicated relationship, one in which she never reared him, and it's just a very difficult relationship to navigate. he ends up calling me saying that he wanted to leave, go back to Chicago 2-3 months in. And I said, why would you do that? Why would you leave? You called me begging to get you out. You said that you felt like, his words, that he was going to be killed in Chicago. And he said, well, our grandmother needs the help. He wasn't really feeling being with my mom and her husband. And he just had to get out. And I said, no, I'm not buying your ticket to leave. I'm not. I'm just not buying your ticket. I'm not doing that. And I called my grandmother. And I regret telling her that. But I said, if something happens to Christian, if he's murdered in Chicago, his blood is on your hands. I said that to her, and I regret it now saying that to her because I was so upset with her for wanting him to go back to Chicago. So then it's like, in my head, to the premise of this conversation, the genesis of it, I felt like I was to blame because maybe I could have pushed harder. No, you're not going to let him leave. I'm cutting off all financial support. I could have said so many different things, and I just didn't. I was just upset. So it hit me, man, maybe I could have saved him. Maybe I could have just moved him in with me. Like after he said, yeah, I want to go back to Chicago, but just come live with me. I could have said that. And maybe this could have been prevented. I mean, but we'll never really know.
Well, what do you think he would have said to you? It's not your fault.
It's not my fault, and I recognize that. I realize that. But those were some of the initial thoughts that came through my head very early in.
I get it. I totally do. Could we get some napkins, not napkins.
Tissue. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I can't. I know. I should have thought.
I said napkins.
Because I'm a crier, too. Like, when I come in here, they just need to have Kleenex.
Yeah.
I cry all the time as well.
When we did my podcast,
I know.
I was in my closet crying.
Oh, buddy. I know. You go through all these. It's like your mind can't stop.
Scenario after scenario.
Of course.
How could this have been prevented?
Yeah.
And it's not like he was involved in the life. He wasn't the intended target at all.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You know what we need is Kleenex whenever I come in to the studio. I get it because you go through a tragedy and your brain is working overtime. You're like, what could I have done? I go back to what happened with my in-laws and it's like, well, we put them there. Oh my gosh, it's our fault.
Yeah.
Even though his mom had a say in it, she was the one that picked the place. His dad needed constant care 24/7. There were ambulances coming to their 4-story walk-up every other week. But yet you go back and say, I could have prevented this, but you couldn't. You couldn't. And I think that Christian up there in heaven looking down saying, please don't torture yourself because you couldn't. There's only so much you can do. You protected him for so long. You talk about being a father figure to him.
Yeah.
Right? His whole life.
Right. But I couldn't protect him from this happening. And I know what you're saying, and I agree. I know you're absolutely correct. It's still the big brother in me, the father figure in me, wish that there were more that I could have done. I remember going through our text messages not that long ago and asking him, hey, I want to fly you out to Miami. When are you free? And messaging him multiple times like, hey, I want to get you out here. And that was the plan.
Yeah.
And it never happened.
You know what you can do and what you're doing right now is you're bringing awareness to it and you're going to help other families. So that's how you help.
And I've been watching you, Janice. You've done a tremendous job in your activism for your in-laws. I mean, you've done such a masterful job that I know was never intended. You never intended to be in that place. You never wanted to be in that place, and none of us would want you in that place. But now you look at the sacrifice of your family, and you're talking about in-laws who you love and you want to still be here and protect. And now your activism has led to the protection of a lot of other people and awareness that money couldn't buy.